Yeah, so as I was in Detroit, then, my pilot came through and I was there for the first transaction. I didn't really let my people know, my customers in Detroit, that, hey, now I'm dialed in with an airplane, you know what I mean? And so initially this dude, he had his own airplane, but it was a little one. It was like a Cessna or some shit. And later on in the story, we'll see that that's not going to cut it, with me, because I'm always like all the way up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to work. Like, some people, when I would sell weed to them, they stay like this and they get the same amount. I don't do that. I'm like this. I got to keep going. You know what I mean? Give me more. Let's make more and do more. So I eventually start letting people know, like, now I'm in the streets of Detroit. What do we want to do? A dude hits me up and he's like, I got people in Chicago. So then I was like, okay, what are we doing? You know what I mean? We figured this out. We had some sit downs. And now I have the pilot, after he bounces from Detroit, I have him shoot over to Chicago. So now we're working the streets of Chicago, and I would sometimes venture out there. I might meet people who I never even met. And it might be, let's say, I go out there and I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm hanging in the hotel. You might bring me a couple 100,000, because at that point when I would drop people in states, I'm not going to drop them fucking 5 pounds. You know what I'm saying? I'm dropping them 200 or 300 pounds. So at any given time, they might owe me $1 million, a couple million. And so what I started doing is I would pick one person in Detroit and I'd say, this dude gets all of it. And then he goes and sees everybody, rather than my pilot, dropping to this guy 100 pack and then this guy 100 pack.
Dealing with too many people.
Yeah, the pilot just drops to one dude, and then that dude works for me, and I tell him where to go and drop off to this dude. So at that point, now that I have the dude that I dropped on who's got 200-300 pounds, I can tell him, hey, I got a new dude. He just wants one. He wants to see what it's like, his sample. You know what I'm saying? So now that I'm in the streets, I can shoot people their 2s and 5s, and people that aren't on my level of shooting, 400 pounds, 300 pounds. You know what I mean? So I'm just doing little distributions out of each state. So now I'm in the streets of Chicago, and I'm like, fuck, this is cool. I'm gonna go, I'm from the beach. I don't really get out much. So I'm gonna go cruise the streets of Detroit. I'm gonna go cruise the streets of Chicago. I start like leveling up, and now I'm back on the money situation is back up. You know how we talked about, the dispensaries ruined the price market, right? So now I'm back again, and my pilot rolls into town. I'm meeting him up, and he's bringing me fucking suitcases filled with, money from these trap houses. It's crazy. I'll be here all night counting with this fucking thing, right? And it's just a shit ton of fucking $1 bills, $1 and 5s. And I'm like, fuck, and when I pass it up to the next dudes that were shooting me the bud, I make all my money uniform. All the faces are going the same way.
Yeah.
I used to get online and order the paper wraps that you get from the bank. So I don't use rubber bands and all that kind of shit. My money looked like it just came out of the bank. You know what I'm saying? When it's all said and done, sometimes it'll take damn near a day and a half, 2 days to count the shit, because there's so much ones and all this shit. And then I remember I'd take money to the bank and the shit smelled like fucking chronic and, right? So now I see that my money's right, and it's back to where I was, and it's just up, everything's up. Now the lifestyle is more luxurious. I'm going to UFCs in Vegas in fucking suites with butlers and Maybachs and just going heavy. So then I go into Chicago, and now I'm in Detroit and Chicago. And as I'm out here in LA, like on the scene, I hit up people and I'll be like, yo, I can get it out anywhere now. Where do you want to go? Do you have family that you know, or a person you grew up with who we know who these people are? We're not just working with people that we don't know. I was like, if you know anywhere, we'll get it there, right? And so now the next spot that jumps off is Atlanta. People are like, yo, I know people in Atlanta. And these are kind of like the dudes in Detroit. They wanted to start going to Atlanta. So I said, fuck it, let's go. So now I built these 3 states. And I have California, I have Detroit, I have Chicago. Now I got Atlanta, and I'm locked in. And so I'm shooting shit to Atlanta, and shit's popping off. Like as soon as I jump a couple 100 pounds there, it's like, fuck, boom, they're gone. We want more. So all of these states, they didn't have Kush. I was the first one to bring Kush to Detroit. I was the first one to bring it to Chicago. First one to bring it to Atlanta. They had all these other names like, oh, we got Irene, or we got Purple Urkel and all these fucking different cannabis names, but nobody had fucking, you know, I didn't have the best strain of Kush. Like I had what was called Bubba Kush. And so a lot of people like OG Kush, and now there's fucking a ton of different Kushes, right? But when I had shot all the clones, they were Bubba Kush. And so what the Canadians also did is they crossbred some of those to get the bud a little bit bigger, because Kush bud is really small, right? So they crossbred it in order to make them like bigger nugs, like golf ball. So I was still like fucking just like, boom, you know, just catering. I got the fire, right? Now, people are hitting me up in New York, and they're like, we want to go to New York. So I'm telling the pilot, and the pilot at this point, he's like telling me he's got ice in his veins. He's down for whatever, go whatever, do whatever. And so I would tell him like, yo, meet this dude in Chicago. And he said, I'll call you when I'm at the hotel. He'll go meet anyone I tell him to meet. He'll take anything, anywhere, do anything. Like he's my dude, and he's not going to be like, oh, I don't know, and whatever. He's like, fuck, where are we going? What are we doing? And he would always use the word, I'm tucked in. So he would bring 400 or 500 pounds to Chicago, Atlanta, and say, I'm tucked in. Then I hit up the people that are going to off it for me and be like, yo, OG's there. You ready to see him? Here's his number. I said, you guys do your thing, man. Hit him up and figure it out. And so then they would hit me back and be like, yo, I saw OG. I picked up a 300 pack. Now, you know, I'm moving it all over. So I'm telling my pilot, who I refer to as OG, I tell him, I need you to go to New York. Like, what are we going to do? And he's like, I don't have the plane for that. You know what I mean? Like, he has to stop to fuel up. He has to stop at nighttime. He doesn't fly at nighttime. And so at this point, you know, I got money, and he's like, I said, well, how much does it cost for a better airplane? And so he shot me some numbers, and I said, well, I'll buy a better airplane, you know? And he's like, well, I could pay you back. And so the way I paid him was I paid him price per pound. You know what I'm saying? So for instance, if he's going to take 400 pounds, I'd shoot him like $200 per pound, right? And then I pay for all expenses. I pay for the fuel. I pay for the rent-a-cars. I pay for the hotels. So he'll come back, shoot me loads of cash, and he'll say, oh, I spent, you know, 9,000 on hotels. And I said, okay, take your 9 and then take your, you know, 200 pounds or $200 times 400 pounds, boom, boom, shoot him his money. So then I give him the cash, we buy another airplane, and then it's like he kept referring to it as a bigger, better, faster. And you know me, like I said, I'm all the way up, you know? So now we got this better plane, and I start hitting up dudes saying, you know, where are we going? What are we doing? You know? So now I'm shooting it to New York. And actually, even before I shot out there with the plane, one of the Canadians was able, we're on the west coast side of Canada is where we were doing all our jumps. And they decided to take one to the east coast because I kept telling them it's a huge market, you know? So I drop over there, and I drop again. I knew these Asian, you know, street dudes, you know, Asian gang member dudes, and they had the drop person in New York. And so I'm working with them, and I had a big rig driver, and you know, he must have been making money to do the drop. He hardly spoke English. He was like one of those East Indians. There's a lot of East Indians in Canada. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. And because it's like super early here on the West Coast, I'm trying to delegate, like, this dude needs to go here and meet this dude. And so I drop like 200 pounds to these dudes again, who I never met. And I'm going like this, that they fucking pay me. You know what I mean? Because I don't know where they live. All I do is I got a phone number on them. But me, I don't care. That's what I do. You know, I shoot them out. You know what I mean? And they pay me. What I look at is, I used to look at each person as, like, let's say a fucking business, like let's say 7-Eleven. And I put my money into that 7-Eleven. And if it doesn't work, then I tried. You know what I mean? So this dude in New York, he's an investment. I put up $1 million, and if he fucks me off or runs off with my money, you know, I tried. You know what I'm saying? It's better psychologically for me to think like, oh, I got beat and dude ran off. You know, I look at it as like I opened up another shop. You know what I'm saying? So I shoot up New York. I get the bigger plane. So eventually it just starts to grow. Now we're in New Jersey. Now we're in Maine. Now I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. Now I'm in St. Louis. Damn. And then now I had a dude who approached me, and he was getting work over into Hawaii. And so I couldn't get my planes there, but we did other types of shit to get them to Hawaii. So at the end of the day, as before when the feds started to catch on to me, I was selling bud in 11 states. At this point, when I was at a UFC sit-down meeting and they said, we can't send you any more bud, we have all this money put away and you owe us this and we can't do anything with it. Then I was kind of asked at that point, like, if I knew of anybody that could get, cocaine to get rid of the money that was sitting in LA. So they kind of do their exchange. It's a trade. They send me bud. I send them, cocaine at the time. And so when they asked me to do that, I contacted some people out here. And it ended up working out to where I alleviated all the money they had kind of sitting around. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, that was cool. Can we do it again? Now all of a sudden I'm more of a, where I refer to the drug trade, right? So they send me bud, I send them cocaine, and we did a couple transactions. And then, I just kind of felt like that the cocaine end of it was not for me. And it was like the devil's advocate type of thing. So what kind of led the feds to kind of come around was that. And at some point, it kind of just dawned on me that I have to say no to the cocaine transactions, right? So I did a few of those, and eventually they kind of got back to their own routine with their own people. And I was just out there doing my thing, selling bud. But at one point, that's what we did, is we traded. One of the other things that had happened was somebody in Detroit had got clipped by like local PD, and then they started kind of breaking it down on who I was and what was happening, right? And so it kind of started this, who is this within the federal government now caught on to who I was. And now
you're on the radar.
Yeah, I'm on the radar. So they're looking at other people in a roundabout. They're not directly on me yet. They're at other people, and then they kind of stumble onto me. I think the time was like February 2010, okay? And at that point, I was myself, personally, I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was doing business out there. And so I flew from Cleveland, Ohio to Atlanta. And then I was calling down to my house, trying to talk to my lady at the time, and I couldn't get a hold. So I called the landline, and when I called the landline, a drug enforcement agent picked up the phone.
Oh shit!
And I was like, "Who's this?" I'm thinking, "Who the fuck is this dude answering my landline?" And he says, "Oh, I'm so-and-so agent, blah, 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 with the DEA. And I was like, "Well, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, you know what's going on. We're over here serving a search warrant. We're looking for drugs." And I was like, "Oh, yeah?" And he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm on vacation." And he says, "Well, when will you be here?" And I said, "I don't know." And right? Like I'm going to be like, "I'll fucking be there in an hour. I'm on my way." Fuck, who would ever do some shit like that? So then I said, "Yeah, I don't know." And then he said, well, where are you? We'll send somebody over. And I'm thinking, fuck, you promise? You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. You know what I mean? I've been doing this too long. So I'm like, yeah, no, that's all right, And he said, "All right, well, we had nothing else to talk about." And I said, "All right, well, I appreciate my lady that's there, if you treat her with respect, because for whatever you're there for, it has nothing to do with what with her." And he's like, "I can't make no promises. If we find drugs here today, she's going to prison too." So I just figured, that's about it. So what happened was I was in Atlanta and I started working with some members of my crew to start to try to hide, to fall back. And I started telling these dudes at this point in Atlanta, I had a house. And, but now I don't want to stay at the house because they might know where it is. So I'm asking people in my crew to go and rent me vacation houses, and now I'm in the fucking wilderness with nothing around. You know what I mean? When I'm in the spot of myself at nighttime, I'm looking around and it's fucking pitch black. There ain't shit there. And I'm just hiding out, So I contact a lawyer within minutes of that phone conversation, and he starts trying to figure all this out. And, so the people in Atlanta, they were talking to their customers about me, and they would refer to me as their boss. So this dude in Atlanta, who was one of my dudes who I had do things for me, like go rent me a house, run up the street and buy me I would have him buy me cars and boats. I'll pay you 5 G's, go buy me a boat, shit like that. So he was kind of like my boy that would, handle things for me, when I needed stuff done. And he's going around talking to people, and he does not know, but he has a confidential informant already attached to him that's already done what's called a control buy from him. So he's not aware that this dude's on him. So he's hanging with this dude, and he's telling him, yo, my boss he has a warrant out now for his arrest, and he's wanted by the feds, this type of shit, right? So they eventually figure out like some sort of scheme to get my paperwork and my legal numbers attached to my case files. And he's saying, oh, he can run your files and let you know things. Like his lady works at a law office, to try to see if we can kind of figure out like what's going on, like behind the scenes, like what do the feds know or whatever. And at the same time, my lawyer he hadn't got anything done. He's like, hey, I try to call the prosecutor and they're never in. I leave messages, and it's been like a few weeks, like close to a month. So because my friend is talking to this confidential informant who later I come to find out through all these, CDs and all these papers, this person was paid to be an informant. He was not like trying to get himself out of some shit he was into. He was like, how do I make money setting up dope dealers? In my world, that's the lowest scum of the earth.
Yeah, working informant.
In other people's worlds, like regular squares, I'm the lowest scum of earth. But in my world, that dude's a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? So anyhow, they get my papers, and this informant turns them over to the Atlanta FBI. Then I get a call from my lawyer, maybe it's only like probably not even 2 months. My lawyer calls and is like, hey, I got a call from the prosecutor. As of right now, everything's dropped. Because I kept telling him, he's like, come fly out and meet me. And I was like, yo, I'm not getting on a commercial airplane. I'm not going to do it. So as soon as I go to the airport, I get fucking rolled up. You know what I mean? Like, nah, I can stay on these streets and make money forever. I don't even need to leave the house, and I just text and call and money. I don't have to, I can run my operation like a Chapo and never leave the house. And just have dudes bring me money and my shit don't stop. And so once the Atlanta FBI contacted the California DEA, then California DEA said, well, let's back off. Now we know where he is in Atlanta. He's at this vacation house. He's this. And so then they start to try to slowly put their hooks in, and they let me ride some more. You know what I mean? To kind of like, what is he doing? Build your
confidence back up.
Exactly. So at that point, before I got the call from my lawyer that, hey, there's no charges being filed against you. When they came here, they confiscated Harleys, Porsches, hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. The lawyer's like, hey, we'll try to get it back. So I'm thinking, man, my prayers have been answered, like I'm back. So I'm thinking at this time too, I'm start to delegate my business to other people, and I'm going to hand my business over, and I'm going to lay in the cut, and I'm going to back off. I'm still going to be getting my check, but I'm going to back off, And so I start to apply all of this in. Like I have people from other states flying out to start to meet my customers, to start to do things for me. But at the same time, these dudes in Atlanta had the feds on them, and they kept trying to get at me. And so he hits me up and he's like, hey, Sin, I got these dudes that are like you, man. They do big business. They're cartel. They're movers. They're money. I want you to meet them. And I'm like, why do I want to meet them? Like, if you want more work, I'll give you more. If you're taking 100 pack today and you say you want 300, I'll give you 300. Like, I don't need to meet anybody. You know what I mean? At this point in my life, I'm smarter than going around meeting fucking new people. I just don't do it. So then he comes back and he says later, after all these times where I'm like, yo, dude, I'm not going to meet your people. He's like, well, let's go to a party. They're having a party in Miami, and we'll just go and hang out and we'll party in Miami. And then he kind of like hit me so many times over and over, let's just go hang out to a party. I finally said, fuck it, you know, I'll cruise out to Miami and go to, you know, hang out around the beach, do some shit. And the whole time, now he introduces me to this informant that was on him, the dude in Atlanta. So now this dude's coming to my house. I have fucking CDs. This dude's wearing a wire in my house, hanging out with me. And now, and I think that he can do things like, let's say you get rolled up or you had somebody in, come by your house. Like a dude told me he got raided and he owed me like $70,000 and was telling me he didn't have the money. So I told dude that was wearing the body wire, hey, run this guy's name and tell me if they took the 70 G's. So he ran it and actually brought me back paper and said, no, they confiscated 14,000.
I was wondering, I didn't have the phone to talk to you, like if everything was cool. You were taking a while. You didn't close your door all the way.
Yeah, yeah.
How many pages?
It's just one page. I just made a copy so I could
go left.
Right to right.
I'm sorry.
Take it straight back up Peachtree.
Did you look at any of it yet?
Yeah, I looked at all of it.
What
I
does
don't think it's real though. Well, it says her name, Raboon Ajavan or whatever her name.
Case number and everything?
Yeah, it's got a case. But okay, let me show you something. See how all this shit's bold and it's like somebody took a report and typed shit in they wanted to put in.
Right, cut and paste.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? All this shit. Why wouldn't all this shit be uniform?
Can I read, or you want to read it or what?
Yeah, go ahead. It says, doesn't say anything about the fucking restaurant. It says that address at 67 Kenner, and it says that it happened. It says, by certifying the oath, complaint best known to his or her knowledge and information believed to be named the defendant on or about 9/25, which looks like they put it in East Rutherford, New Jersey, Borough, Bergen County, New Jersey, did within jurisdiction of the courts knowingly or purportedly manufacture, distribute, or dispense or possess with intent to manufacture, distribute, or dispense marijuana in a quantity of 1 ounce or more, but less than 5 pounds, specifically by processing 10 plastic bags containing approximately 4.28 pounds of marijuana in violation of New Jersey state statute. Action consists of crime of the 3rd degree within the jurisdiction of court knowing distribution, dispense, possession with intent to distribute or dispense controlled substance or controlled substance analog while within 1,000 feet of a school property used for school purpose or is owned by at least to Alfred S. Frost.
Does it say anything about money?
No, it doesn't say anything about money. Possession of 10 plastic bags containing approximately 4.2 pounds of marijuana. Okay, here's the deal. This is all we gotta do. All we gotta do is find out where Alfred S. Frost School is, because that's where they got the shit from. Within 1,000 feet of that school. If the school is not 1,000 feet from that address they said that restaurant is, they're lying. Because this shit's made up anyway, but you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, like it's cut and paste or something?
Yeah, like it's cut and paste.
Well, what about if we Google the case number or the name or the county or whatever?
I'll Google all that shit.
Or will it come up on their county website? You know,
Yeah,
like
but you're not listening to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, they're saying that they got this marijuana within 1,000 feet of a school.
Right.
If I put the name of the school in, if it's not within 1,000 feet of that 295 Patterson Avenue, it's a fucking farce. It don't say nothing about money. All it says is about 4 pounds of weed. And like I said, I think this is an old case and they just cut and pasted some bullshit in here.
What is it in black right there on the top? The warrant or whatever.
It says complaint warrant. What I'm saying is, I think they took a paper, they cut and pasted what they wanted to put in here, and then
excuse me, sorry.
You see what I'm saying?
I guess I'll look at it more.
Are you talking about? Okay, let me ask you a question. I'm gonna make a point to you. How much money are we talking about?
I have no idea.
If you roughly had to guess.
I have no idea. I have no idea how much money.
Say if it's $50,000. Do you think an hour worth of cut and paste is worth $50,000?
Right. Well, they owe more than that just for like the weed. I'm just talking about how much money was physically there. You know.
Oh, it doesn't say any money was physically there.
Yeah.
So even if they got busted, they're bullshitting you about the money. Even if somebody got 4 pounds of weed taken from them, they're still bullshitting about the money. You feel me?
Right.
Because if they took money, it'd be in here. But I don't even think this is real.
So then I hit up my dude in New York and I'm like, yo, I got your court papers saying they only took 14 G's, bro. Like, where's the rest of the money? You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of, working with these guys, not knowing that this dude's an informant. So eventually I make my way to Miami, and this whole thing in Miami is orchestrated by the feds. You had DEA there, you had everybody. It was a fake party. I go to this hotel room, and maybe it was like a Saturday night, like a weekend night, and they pick me up in a limo. And you can kind of get the idea that maybe the party, they're not ready for me, because the limo's like circling and it seems weird, right? Wow. You know what I'm saying? And so at this point, I'm in a limousine with like 2 of my boys from Atlanta, and one of them was the informant and then 2 other dudes. And so when I was in Atlanta too, I spent a lot of time out there. People would trip on me like I'm a white dude and I'm up in all the fucking black urban hip hop clubs and I have security guards because, I have a lot of money. What's paying a dude $400 to be my security for the night, right? So people trip on me like, who's this white dude with like security guards? And you know what I mean? I'd be in the club throwing money and doing my shit. And so backtracking, I eventually go to this house in Miami, and you know how house parties sometimes start out in the kitchen. So I'm in the kitchen, they're giving drinks, and I could tell this is weird. They're kind of like corny people. They're like cornballs. They don't have gangster swagger, you know what I'm saying? And a dude starts to introduce himself like, oh, I'm from Detroit. Oh, I'm from Atlanta. And they're all the spots that I drop weed in. And so I'm like, fuck, this is kind of suspicious.
Yeah.
And then the chicks there didn't add up. Like none of the dudes had their ladies. And so then they had some belly dancers come and they belly dance. And then we had like a catered event at the swimming pool. But beyond the swimming pool was the ocean, and it backed up into their backyard. And so in the ocean, they had like a $5 million yacht in the backyard. So then as the sun's going down, the dude that is like acting like he's this cartel, big money laundering, he's like, hey, Sin, let's all go get on the yacht. So we all go get on this fucking, multi-million-dollar yacht. They're acting like they're big shit. And I'm on there with my boy, and I'm telling him, and at one point, even before we got on the yacht, I told dude that brought me there, I said, these are all fucking police, dude. And you're bugging, bro. You're just paranoid. And at that point,
Is that the CI you were talking to?
No, it was like my buddy. And I said, watch, let's fucking go smoke right now. Smoke a blunt, and I guarantee nobody will smoke with us. And so he was like, yeah. So we go up. And we're all on the fucking, the boat, corners up like this. I'm like the center of the attraction. It's like you, me, and my boy, right? And then it's nothing but like fucking agents in a big circle like this. So him and I are smoking a blunt. I'm like this? No. Nobody's smoking. These dudes are, drugged. No one's doing cocaine. No one's got their lady there. And then at the end of the night, another dude that was with us, we were in the limo, and he was like fucking in the corner all night with some girl. And he was like, yeah, the girl I was talking to was a madam, and all those girls were her girls. And I was like, duh, you fucking dumb shit. Like, those chicks were paid to be there. That was like all some fake shit, And so at the end of the day, when I get these, all of this is on video. All of this is fucking wiretaps and body wires. So the dude that was the informant, and to kind of stay off the radar at that time, because I was in Atlanta, I drove to Miami. And the whole entire time I was in the car in Miami, this dude was wearing a body wire. And and I'm sitting here talking to a dude openly, making my moves, calling people. So he's listening. Now I'm at some fucking orchestrated party. And then the next day, The party's over. We go back, do our thing. I'm at my hotel, and a couple of my boys from LA flew out to just party in Miami, you know, have some fun. And so I'm at the swimming pool and in the hotel, and it's maybe like, I don't know, 11, 10:30. And so we're already fucking just doing our thing. And my boy starts calling me, the one who has the informant attached to him. And he's like, yo, we're all gonna go eat in the lobby of the hotel. Can you come down? And I said, fuck no. I'm not coming down there. And he's like, oh, dude's getting ready to leave to Japan. He's catching a flight. Come down and, you know. And I was like, nah, dude, you talk to homeboy. And you know what I'm saying? Like, what do I got to do? Because the night of the party, the dude came up and he's like, hey, let's not talk business tonight. Let's just have some fun and party. And I'm thinking, yeah, whatever, right?
Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in. Exclusively at FreshOutSeries.com.